Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the circus, to the SciShow talk. And Yuan and I are very excited today to collaborate for the first time. Um, yeah, so we have a small group here, which will give us a lot of time to open up a discussion for a Q&A. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, and we'd like to know where you're based and what you do. Cool. And let me just share my screen. Can you see my screen? Okay, cool. All right, so we decided on this topic because it's something that we both feel strongly about. You and I actually have quite a few things in common. First, we have the same initials. I don't know if you have realized. And we both from China, and we both came to the US a little bit over 10 years ago. And we both got our master's degree and have worked as a experience designer. But we do have a big difference. That is, I have a dog and she has a cat. And my dog's name is Pancake. And please tell me your cat's name is Donut, Yuan. What's his name? Her.
I have two cats actually.
Oh.
One name is Miso, the other is Tribble. So
Miso.
yeah.
So that's perfect. It's like miso soup.
Yeah, that's the color of her fur.
So another common narrative is that we both like to name our pets food name. I didn't know that before this talk. Yeah, so we're really excited to share our journeys with you today, and I hope that you could find some value in it. So design or be designed. Now, I want you to take a moment to observe your surrounding. Look at what's around you and name a few objects. So I'm seeing my lamp, my computer, my desk, air purifier. So I think what's in common in those things is that they're all design items, right? They're designed to have an intention and to have a purpose. In fact, we live in an environment where almost everything is designed, including ourselves. We are designed by our past, by our childhood, by our genetics. And psychologists say that 95% of our behaviors are actually subconscious. So what happens when we don't act with intention, when we don't try to design our path, is that we will be designed by our environment, by what's around us, by the people, the society. We'll be on autopilot. We'll be doing things that are habitual, things that we used to do, we're taught to do, or things that everyone else is doing. But if we do take the driver's seat, we have the power to shift and steer our life into directions that are truly aligned with our values, with who we are and what we desire at the core. And to me, that is the key to a lasting happiness and fulfillment. So with this talk, we'd like to help you develop a new way to design your career that aligns with your desire, not the society's desire or your employer desire, but yours. And we would like to share with you a framework to assess your core values and career satisfaction. And last but not least, we want to empower you to plan for your next stepping stone in your career. So this is my journey. I'm from China, and I studied graphic design and psychology at VCU in Richmond, Virginia. I wanted to make a positive impact in the world through visual communication, and I thought understanding human cognition is very important. So I started my career as a designer at a branding shop called Release the Hounds, I got my master's degree in business with a concentration in experience design, and I got an offer at AKQA. So I drove across the country with my dog, Pancake, who apparently doesn't like taking pictures. and Most recently, I got an offer from Autodesk, and I'll be starting that new chapter in a week. Since COVID, I started giving talks to universities and mentoring people on ADP list. I wanted to use my own experience to help them find clarity to navigate this chaotic environment so they can make their own decisions with clarity and intention.
Cool. Well, now Yanci has shared her career path. It's time to share mine. So a lot of people didn't know that I actually started my path as a researcher. So I was in China and I got my feet wet into user experience through getting an internship at Lenovo. And then from there, I studied human-computer interactions at Carnegie Mellon. And I have then began my career at a few tech companies that you're probably familiar with. Most recently, I was a design lead at Airbnb. And all of these experience in design had really helped me to realize my true passion. For the past 5 years, I've been actively mentoring designers, especially women and people of color designers. And I created a mentorship program at Airbnb to scale that mentorship program to 500 teammates. But it started with actually empowering the women designers on the team. So I realized that I truly have a passion for mentorship. So, and as someone who always had side projects, I always longed for creative independence and being an independent business owner. So yeah, just this year, I left my job at Airbnb and I got trained to be a professional coach. So right now I coach creative professionals and I support them to play bigger in career and life. Next slide, please. So yeah, that was my career journey so far. So now that I'm coaching, I speak to creative professionals about their career goals and aspirations almost every week. So what I want to share is that, what I've sensing traditionally when we talk about career goals, they have often been defined by moving up to the corporate career ladder, right? It looks like this on the picture, a straight linear ladder all the way up. Yeah, I think that's, sometimes it's what it has to be, but titles and compositions and things like that, these are still very important. But I think in more and more conversations that I'm having with creative professionals and clients, and I realize that higher titles and those bigger bonuses in your bank account usually don't equal to career satisfactions. Next slide, please. So I love this quote from Amy Young, who is a founder at Arna Tribe. She left her shiny career in fashion design and started her own lifestyle business to cultivate a community with her indigenous heritage. So in a podcast interview, she said that it came to that point when I kept going higher and higher up to where I thought I was supposed to be going. I realized I wasn't getting any happier. So I think especially this year, more and more people, they start to reflect and examine what makes their work meaningful and fulfilling, right? So then there comes the question, that begs the question, what could be a better way to think about our career goals, right? If you have any thoughts, and please type in the chat, what could be better ways to think about career goals, and what has been your understanding about career goals. So feel free to type your thoughts in the chat. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, so in my coaching experience and how I have led the teams in design, what I have realized that a better way to think about career is that they should be centered around your core values. And I like to invite you to think about it as a beehive. So the center is your core value, and the goals and then the skills and all of these things, they grow from the inside out. They branch outwards, but they were all centered around your core values. And what is exciting is that this is not just something that we're just talking about in this talk. Our industry is also starting to shift away from this traditional career ladder as well. Next slide, please. For example, Spotify VP of HR, Michael, he wrote about an article recently and talking about career development. What he described as Spotify is that they scrapped the career ladder years ago because they're far better analogy for how people actually move around during their career. And sometimes sideways or a different direction may be the most natural step for growth and taking on a new challenge. I know a lot of people maybe, change their career to become a designer, or they're in the process of doing that. So this might sound pretty familiar to you, right? So if you're in the process of thinking about making a change in your career or life, it begins inside. Next slide, please. Because true transformation starts from within, right? How you do anything is truly how you do everything. So think about what are some of the things that really drives you, and that's where we're gonna start thinking about building that career with intention. So next, Yanci will tell you how to look inward and design your career with intention.
Yeah, so this is a framework we'd like to discuss today. This is a triangle with 3 points and 1 center. So the 3 points represent 3 steps. First, we need to reflect your current career situation, your satisfaction. And second, we need to envision your ideal self, where you'd like to be. And third, we need to try to act with clarity and intention. As you can see, all these 3 steps are built upon one foundation, and that is your core values. So clarifying your core values should be the first step before the actual first step. So why are values important? They're important because not only can they serve as self-fulfilling prophecies, but they are important reference points for us when making difficult decisions. So in the morning, when you get up, when you are brushing your teeth, you don't think about, I really value my teeth, right? When you're eating breakfast, you don't think about, I value food. Like I said before, 95% of our behaviors are subconscious. However, there are difficult decisions to make in life, such as whether you should quit your job, start your own business, or take a new offer. And without knowing, what we value in life, we might make decisions that are arbitrary, decisions that are driven by our emotions, which are ephemeral, right? But knowing what we actually value in life, and those things are likely to stick with us for many, many years. And we can make decisions with more intention, and we're likely to put ourselves in situations that we will feel content and happy for a long time. So it's essentially de-risking decision making. Additionally, when we live our values, we set a good example. We can be influential and inspire people around us to do that way. There are many ways to get to know what you value, such as talking to a career coach, a therapist, or even meditation, or talking to friends and families, or journaling. But today I'd like to share with you a little technique that I discovered that worked for myself. So recall 3 moments that made you really happy. 3 vivid memories that brought you a strong sense of joy. And 3 is just a starting point. Feel free to write 6 or 8 or 10. So when I did this exercise, this is what I wrote. Traveling to the Maldives with my family in 2018. Cooking camp food in the nature with friends and coworkers last summer, and watching documentaries in the evening while eating home-cooked food. Now, the third one is a reoccurring event. And then highlight the words that speak to you, the words that make this memory special. And here we have travel, family, nature, friends, coworkers, documentaries, home, cooking, and food. And so when I pieced those words together on a new sheet of paper, I started to see this big picture of me. And these are the things I value in life. And these are my core values. Some of the things like purpose, knowledge, and balance, they come from other memories that I didn't include in this slide. And then we're going to try to narrow down your big list of values to only 3. This is to help us prioritize because usually we can get everything we want in life. So when we're making difficult decisions, we can look at the top 3 values and it just, help us to focus. And then we're going to try to pick only 1. And this is going to be your top value. Why do we have to do that? And trust me, this is not a very easy exercise, but life is about compromise and negotiation sometimes. So for example, you have your 3 core values and you're comparing, 2 different job offers. So there is this option A is this clean energy startup, something you feel passionate about. So it gives you a great sense of purpose. However, you probably have to work 60 hours a week and you won't have as much time to spend with your family. And in option B, you are working with let's say a big tech company, I'm just assuming, and you'll have a much better work-life balance. You'll be able to work remotely, spend a lot of time with your daughter and your partner. However, the problem space is not something you're particularly passionate about. So how do you make that choice? And now with your top value being balanced, it's clear that you are more likely to feel happy and content if you go with the job that gives you the better work-life balance. And the next step is to put yourself back in those scenarios and try to feel how you felt at that time. So for me, I felt relaxed, adventurous, and serene. I felt safe and connected and in fun. And I feel curious and healthy and balanced. So these are the emotions that make me feel centered, the emotions that make me feel me. And I like to use them as metrics to help me measure whether my core values are being met. So once you know what your core values are, it's time to reflect and examine your current situation, your current job satisfaction. So this is called the Wheel of Career. It shows different aspects of a career, such as recognition, climate culture, results, work-life balance, self-expression, communication, career development, and relationship. And you're going to rate each aspect from 0 to 10 and try to focus on one category at a time and be as objective as possible. So this is a chart. Now, please type in the chart, in the chat, how you feel about this chart. Do you think, is this a good chart or bad chart? I can see the results. I'll take a look later, but I'm assuming that we are getting a mixed result. And it should be that way because the career is not about the society's expectation. It's about your satisfaction. It's about whether it's aligned with your values. So I can see this being an awesome chart for someone who really values work-life balance and culture and autonomy, right? But I can see this being a suboptimal chart for people who value growth and results and recognition. So ask yourself, are there any surprises for you? How do you feel about your career as you look at your wheel and your core values? Sometimes we just feel unhappy and we don't know why. We feel that something is off, but we don't know what it is. So the wheel of career will help you to dissect your career into pieces. So it can help you to look at one aspect at a time. So you can see if there is actually any problem, and if so, what they are. So you can focus your energy on the issues that need to be addressed.
Cool. Well, just before I get into the third part, envision, I just want to say that if you're wondering whether I need to capture and take notes of all of these information, don't worry. We're going to post a link to link of the deck at the end of our talk so that you can download it later on and to reference this, because we know this could be a lot of information because it takes time to internalize some of these. So yeah, don't worry about like making sure everything is like remembered. All right. So now that you have that clarity of your core values and how you feel about your current career or job, it's time for us to really envision that ideal self, because without knowing where you're heading, that North Star that matters to you, we can't really design that action or to put our first step forward, right? So next slide. Yeah, to do this, I would like to introduce a visioning exercise called Ideal Image. This is something that I actually do with my client as well. So this begins with a simple question. What is your idea of the ideal blank? So it could be a personal role, right? For example, if family is an important core value to you, then that question could be framed as, what is your idea of the ideal husband or ideal wife or ideal daughter? So you can use that to really reflect any role that holds importance in your life and your career, right? So for a career scenario, it could be the ideal collaborator or manager or leader, public speaker, and it could be also an artist if that's really important for you. So next slide. In this scenario here, I'm just going to use one of my clients, what she has shared. So she is a mid-level designer who enjoys working with people, and she aspires to become a manager. So I asked her, what are your ideas of the ideal manager? Next slide. And yeah, so from there, she listed a few qualities and characteristics that represent her idea of the ideal manager. So on this chart, you can see that she outlined 5 qualities in her perspective. So inspiring, transparent, autonomy, trust, and strategic, right? And that was the first step. And then the second step she went through is to also assign a rating to really give them some understanding about, okay, rate from 1 to 10 on the qualities against how well you currently practice each of them. So how well you're currently practicing inspiring in your daily work. And 1 represents a complete opposite. I'm like nothing like that. And then 10 represents an exact likeness. I am inspiring. So I asked her to rank these. And to be honest, I think sometimes, all of these numbers are just really a tool for us to really help see what are some of the ones that stood out and what are the ones that could use more help. So these numbers are more like relative. And next slide, please. And from there, I asked her, which of these would you like to improve? And from her perspective, she saw that autonomy and strategic 2 qualities were the ones that are falling short, currently on that list. So she talked about she wants to think about strategies to become more autonomy, to have more autonomy in her career, and also to be more strategic. So note that all of these, these were all coming from her own perspective. So that's really important because you know yourself the best. And from there, some questions that you can use to really get more clarity on, what does that mean truly about these inequalities, right? So for example, you can ask, what do you need to address to get from, say, number 5 to a scale number 5 to scale number to 6? Right, so because a 10 sometimes could be a very, far out of reach for people. So when you can start breaking these down into small scales, it helps people or yourself as well to see you can make incremental progress towards these bigger goals. Right. Another question to think about is what support from others might you need. Sometimes you can leverage your manager or maybe your teammates or people that in your network could help you. And also take some, envisioning to think about what would make a score of 10 and what would a score of 10 look like, right? What does a strategic designer, for example, look like in your point of view? So all of that is really will help you to imagine that ideal self. So then you can work backwards to think about how to make that happen. Next slide. So that was envision. And the last but not least is act. And a lot of times career success are recognized. So that means you need to act and take that action outward and to take actions that champion your core values. And yeah, so every person is different. So I'm gonna share some questions to help you think through this and to design the actions with intention. Next slide. How I like to do this, to think about this in two dimensions. One is the leading part, and and in terms of so actions. One is the leading actions, and then the other is the learning actions. Because I believe that you need to have both to be able to create this healthy cycle of reinventing yourself and transformation. Right? For if you're already great at some work and some aspects, and the questions that you can ask for yourself is, what is the work that only I can do? So be clear about what are some of that unique contribution you can bring to the table, because that could help you really focus on the unique value that you can serve. And what do you need to make it happen? Right? Either it could be internally, putting it more up forefront for you to focus, or maybe you can share this more vividly with your community or people that you work with. And what can you do, say this week, to be just one step closer to that work that only you can do, right? So sometimes it's just a quick, reframe or a mindset switch, but sometimes maybe it takes a little bit more deliberate action. But all of that is to really help you tease out, what are some of your unique strengths that you can put that into action starting tomorrow. And then move on to the next part, which is to learn. What skills do you need to learn in order to achieve that next level of impact? And sometimes, yeah, we need to step out of our comfort zone to learn some of these skills. Sometimes it's like public speaking, like a lot of people don't feel comfortable about it, but it's a skill that you can build and gain experience, right? And who might be able to support you? So people and community could be a really valuable resource to tap into in this journey. Next slide. Yeah, so I love this quote from Angela Duckworth. She's the author of Grit. It's a great book. She also had TED Talk, so if you want to check that out, watch the TED Talk. She wrote about how to have perseverance in difficult situations, and how to tackle a long and big career and a big hairy goal that is just unclear for you in front of you. So what she said about is we need to set interim and stepping stone objectives along the way. And as with any long journey, detours are inevitable. Write the goal in pen and the strategies in pencil. So what this means is that it's completely normal that you feel like sometimes you have to shift and to adapt to a new environment. Right? If you have grit, the ultimate goal shouldn't be shifted, and you're only just shifting the strategies in which to achieve that bigger goal. So let me put this into practice for you. Next slide. And here is a blueprint to put your goals and strategies in place. So you can definitely use this in your next career conversation with your manager, or if you are a manager, great, then this is kind of a helpful conversation canvas to have with your report. So it's really great for generating actions, accountability. So on the top, you have your goal for yourself or someone that you work with. And then below, there are multiple strategies, and you can come up with strategies for improving that goal. And then to create accountability, it's important to have time. So when do you expect to start, and how would you know it will be successful? Next slide. Take an example of my client. She aspired to be a more strategic designer. That was one of the things that she wanted to work on, right? So when I asked her what could be the first step towards making this happen, so she came up with a few strategies. For example, reviewing past research insights, prioritize vision work on her plate, or use documentation to communicate. You can see a lot of these things are very much tangible things that she can start either tomorrow, next week, or this week. So, but all of that, she had this now clear picture how it will serve her to become a more strategic designer. And she also set some measurement of success. And then being concrete and being specific, it's really helpful in this because it really helps you to create that sense of accomplishment, and that creates momentum to continue to move forward. Next slide. Yeah, so lastly, when you are acting and taking actions, it's normal to sometimes hit a roadblock or you feel like I'm stuck. So some questions to help you get unstuck. For example, first of all, where am I stuck? And then what decision got me here? So that you can, next time when you are maybe getting those hints again, okay, I might be heading towards a dead end, then you know how to navigate. And what is the next frontier of growth for me? So always looking for the things that, that emphasize growth and learning, because that's gonna help you keep moving forward. And then also core values, we talk a lot about them. It can be a really powerful tool to help you make difficult decisions. So imagine if your core value would be was a person, it could talk, what would I say about this situation that you were facing? I think that could be super powerful. Basically, it's listening to your heart, right? And where is my core value leading next? So all of these could be really helpful in some big decisions. For example, when Yanci was saying about deciding between two offers, they all sound great, right? Like where is your core value leading next? Next slide. So, well, we have basically just covered the 4 stages of designing your career with intention. We begin with clarify your core values, and then we move towards reflecting your career satisfaction, and then envisioning your future self and acting with intention so that you can learn and continue to reflect in this journey. So with those steps in place, next slide, please. With those steps in place, we can truly learn from the within and really get clarity about what core values really holds importance for us. So the benefit from putting that core value front and center is that they can truly serve as the engine, and they can generate more energy and momentum for your next stage of career success. Next slide. So I want to talk about the big picture here, because core values, we believe in it, and we believe it works because it can truly be this engine to help you lead with intention, both inwards and outwards. So on the right-hand side, it's the inwards motion. So for example, when you have that core value clarified, you'll be more tuned into your leadership strength and the skills that you want to focus on to learn. And with that, you can execute with clarity and focus. And in my experience in coaching, a lot of people come to me, talk about they struggle with, say, work-life balance. And on the surface, it might look like this is a time management problem, right? I need to maybe have a better schedule. I need to maybe be more efficient. But many times when we actually dive deeper, a lot of the core problem lies underneath is the core values, because what they view as important, it's not mapped to the actions that put out to the world. And that's why they experience burnout. So it's really important for us to see that a lot of times, a lot of these things are things in our inner work. The inner work, it's really important for us to influence the outer actions that we can put out. And then on the left-hand side, when you look outwards, and you will be more intentional with the communities that you communicate and connect with. And I believe that energy attracts like-minded energy as well. So you will attract mentors or even sponsors that could support you in this journey. And sometimes these can translate into new career opportunities as well. And all of these possibilities, and they begin with clarifying and honoring your core values. Next slide. And to wrap up, if this sounds complex to you, don't worry, because at the end, this whole process, we're simply designing. And as the late legendary designer Milton Glass said, design is simply to move from an existing condition to a preferred one. Especially, I believe a lot of you in the audience are designers. You probably already have lots of context about this in your subconscious mind. And it's just about bringing them to the forefront. And intention begin with just simply paying attention. Okay, next slide. That wraps our talk. So I hope you find this helpful to get in touch with myself and Yanci. Please find us online or over email. And I will post in a second the link to the deck in the chat. So you can go back and then follow through some of these prompts and questions to really think about how to create intention for your own career. And then we have about 20 minutes, which is great. And then we are here to answer any questions, have a conversation. And yeah, please if you have any thoughts and feedback and questions, we wanted to make this interactive.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yuan. That was amazing.
Same, you do too.
Okay. All right. Oh, we got 10 people here. Awesome. Do we have any questions and comments and thoughts? Feel free to type in the chat or unmute yourself. Or for people that joined later, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We'd like to know where you're based and what you do. I'm based in Portland, Oregon. I think Yuan, you are in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. I think maybe, yeah, maybe you need to do some change.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just realized everyone was like muted, so they couldn't talk.
Yeah, because I believe we started as a webinar, maybe. Yeah, but for all of you, I just posted the link in the chat. So it's hosted on my personal website. So I'm also using this opportunity just to talk about, like, I also write about some of these stories about people, like creative people and their soul journey and their careers, and I think a lot of them actually really inspired me to do what I'm doing right now. So if you're interested, check that out. You can, if you go to this link, and you'll be able to see the newsletter. And I write like once every week. So yeah, if you're curious, just check it out.
Yeah, and she also has a great newsletter that I've been reading every Saturday.
Thanks.
It's actually like the only newsletter I actually read.
Oh, I'm so flattered. Thank you. That means a lot.
Do you want to?
Thank you so much, Miranda, for your feedback. Yeah, I mean, I to be honest, like after putting this talk together, I've been reflecting a lot on my own career and the kind of career conversation that I have had with my managers in the past. Truly, I felt like they were not as really meaningful as they could have been. So that's kind of the motivation for me to also work with Yanci to talk about this, because I felt like there are so much more opportunities to structure career conversation and also to help individuals to think about their career in a way that it's, more heart-centered. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of benefit to it.
Mm-hmm. Where can we find the newsletter again?
Oh, the newsletter, I will type it in the chat. Uh, so, but if you go to that link for the slide deck, you should be able to see that too. But this is just a direct link. I didn't want to be like, write my newsletter right here. But if you're curious, that's here.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been curious. I mean, when I was giving a talk with South Bay UX, a couple of people asked the value of having a career coach, and how to pick a good coach. Do you have what's your response to that, Yuan?
How to pick a career coach?
Or like, do I need one? When what is the moment that you think that I need a career coach?
I think it's a good question. I think it really depends on the person and also the coach that you are reaching out potentially, right? So I think people. So if you how to think about whether you need a career coach. I think a lot of different signs, what's the right word? Signs potentially to think about, to ask yourself, like, am I ready to see things in a different perspective? And am I ready to put in actually work consistently to make something happen? And also just ask yourself, like, how much do you want for this thing to happen, right? And sometimes some of these things, maybe a mentor could help you, but a career coach is really, they have really no, they have a lot of professional tools in their hands to really help tease out some of these things for you. So if you feel like just very stuck and you have tried different things and it just hasn't really worked out, and then maybe a career coach could be a really helpful way to help you unstuck. And I will say there's a lot of people, especially in design, that definitely call themselves coach, but they don't really have professional experience being like going through coaching, or they haven't really worked with a coach themselves, so but they call themselves coaches. So yeah, I think it really matters if you need to talk to people, and a lot of them offer like a half an hour free conversation to connect. So chemistry is really important, and then just take your time to talk to people, and then it is an investment, so you want to make sure your money is spent in the right person, and then trust that person can really help you to achieve that goal that it's important. So yeah, so that's kind of what I would say. And yeah, like, definitely take your time to research, and then also reflect on what it is that you're trying to get from a career coaching experience, and whether that person can help you get there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, personally, I've been finding journaling very helpful. It's basically like, talking to yourself. It is, basically what it is. Like, I sometimes like struggle with, like, for example, one of the things I struggle with is I spend too much time like writing an email, and because English is not my first language. So when I start journaling, I just, dump all my thoughts out without editing. And then at first, I felt like I was all over the place when I was doing, when I was replanning my career during COVID. I didn't know what I wanted. I loved my current job, but also I felt some aspects were lacking. For example, um, like the sense of purpose. As an experienced designer, I was really hoping that I could work on a product for a long term, a product that I feel emotionally connected to. But agency environment, I get to work on a variety of projects, but not focus on one. And then I started journaling and writing my own user story. And talking to therapist and coach, and I find out what my core values are. And I think I really value a sense of purpose. I value spending time with my family and feeling balanced and healthy. So that's why I decided to pivot from the agency side to the brand side. But I decided to stay in Portland, Oregon, because I really resonate with the lifestyle, the vibe, the culture here. So I am confident that my new journey will be a good one because it is aligned with my core values.
Cool. Yeah, if you have more questions in the audience, please just, you can also raise your hand and we can make sure that you can come on to the camera, or you can also just type your questions in the chat. And yeah, so we want to make sure we can really support you on this topic in whatever way that matters to you. Anything else? Anybody have any topics or anything that you felt like it really resonate with you? The 4 stages that we talked about. Are there a particular one that you feel like, yeah, like I wish that I knew this like earlier on, or maybe this totally resonated with me? I would love to hear your thoughts. Well, thanks, Brian. Thanks for your feedback. Cool. Well, I hope regardless you're able to leverage this, the talk, and to really internalize some of these questions and help them to help your own career, and to think about what does intention mean in your own scenario as well. Okay.
I'm muted. If you have any questions later, feel free to reach us on LinkedIn or through email. And as we mentioned earlier, the talk will be available online in a couple of weeks, and we'll be sending out links.
All right. Well, there's one more question. Okay. Well, thank you, Marla. Thanks for your feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Well, I guess then, if there's no more questions, feel free to, have 10 minutes back. And yeah, but we'll just be hanging out for a little bit longer if you want to still just chat with us. But feel free to go. And thank you so much for dialing in. And
Thank you so much. Okay, I think we have one question from Alan. After building a successful design career at those great tech companies, including Airbnb, it must be a big decision to switch to coaching. Could you talk a bit more about your thought process and how you make that decision?
Yeah, well, thanks, Alan, for the question. Yeah, it was a big decision. I definitely have been, it wasn't something that I just, pop into my head, but I've definitely been thinking about it for about like 2 years. So I was actually working with a coach like 2 years ago to try to think about how to cultivate my creative purpose. I knew that was a topic that was important to me, and I didn't feel like I had the space to talk about it at work with my manager, for example, or like I was able to find a mentor to talk about this at work, but it still wasn't fruitful enough. So I think I hired a coach to really help me design the actions, and then to really get clarity on some of these things. But it wasn't until like 2 years later that I ended up really doing this. And it's for multiple reasons, because I also got a green card this year. Like I wasn't able to just quit my job to do these things previously. So I was kind of in the preparation phase for building it up. And one thing that I did try to do at work at Airbnb was that I did a lot of mentorship work, and I organized mentorship. So I actually didn't know I would become a coach afterwards, but I just felt like that's where I got like passion and energy. So I just kind of followed that. without really knowing like how it's going to turn into, but at the time it just felt like the right thing to do. And then that really kind of helped me see that I truly enjoy doing that kind of work. So then coaching becomes basically the next kind of milestone or next thing in front of me. And yeah, and for me, I think this year just felt like maybe the right time, and I've been thinking about doing that leap like this year as well. So it just all kind of come together, and so that I made the change.
So I have a follow-up question. How do you know whether you made the right decision?
How do I know whether I made the right decision?
Yeah.
I think when that depends on how you know it's right? So for me, I felt like my heart would say this is where I want to go, and I would listen to that. And I think there was definitely a lot of noise sometimes in our world that we need to eliminate. So there is all these things that maybe it's just making you feel like, yeah, this job is okay. I'm doing actually pretty good, and maybe I'm about to get a promotion. So maybe this is fine. So there's all these noises, but like going back to really what is the work that only you can do, right? So that's actually really how I'm seeing a lot of those things and evaluating these options, because to me that this kind of coaching work, it's really uniquely something that I can serve. But some of these other work, yeah, I find value and I get compensated well, but at the same time I'm starting to feel like they can be repetitive, but also they felt like I'm not getting the most amount of fulfillment as previously. So that means maybe I'm entering into more like a plateau like phase in my current job. So yeah, like I think it's just about reflecting again, like reflecting your career satisfaction, right? Are you getting recognized, or are you feeling like you're expressing yourself freely in those environments? So then be honest and think about, yeah, like how you feel, and then what would that ideal self look like. And then you can figure out like planning some milestones and figure out how to potentially get there step by step.
I see. So I think I shared some of my core values earlier, but I don't think we've talked about your core values. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, so my number one is creativity. So I believe that's really what fuels me. And the work that I'm doing right now, that's also a different types of creative work. It's not the same as UI design, but I believe that every day I still think about it in a very creative way. And then the other one is personal growth. So that's also a very important part. I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm always learning. And yeah, so that's my top, like the most important one.
Cool. I think we got another question. I'm just going to read it in case other attendees couldn't see that. Thanks for sharing that. And yes, visa situation is a big barrier for me too. Would love to ask more about mentor, career coach. Should we stick to only one mentor coach and keep following up? Or should I find a new mentor for different perspectives? What's your thought on this? I know ADP list allows people to connect with different mentors. I think it would be great to get different perspectives, but also working with one mentor, they will have a better idea of where you come from and how you grow, how you develop, right?
Yeah, I think there is value in different kind of engagements. So definitely one-on-one, I think sometimes it helps if you are, say, someone on the job market, you're trying to get your portfolio reviewed. So that might be actually better to just get different types of feedback from different mentors, right? But if you're maybe thinking about something a little bit more long-term, or it's more like something that you're learning, you're developing, a longer, it takes longer to take effect. Maybe having a more dedicated mentor could be helpful because they can see your growth, they give you feedback along the way. And I think depends on what you're trying to get from this mentorship experience. So that's where I would start, and then think about yeah, like it's more people, more perspective, the most helpful, or is one person to see your progression of growth and give you that continuous check-in and feedback be helpful. So I think there are other organizations besides ADP List that does more of a cohort based, say like 2 months mentorships, programs. So like Hexagon, which has a lot of chapters in different places in the United States. And then also, I believe Rethink, they also have some seasonal mentorship pairing. So these are some of the organizations that you can check them out, and they offer mentorship.
Awesome. Any other questions? We have a couple of minutes. Sorry, it's my dog.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe we can end, this meeting, and if there are some more questions. And I really appreciate all of you joining and sticking to the end. And yeah, thank you so much for all your thoughtful questions. I really enjoyed just having this platform to chat with you all. And yeah, you know how to reach out to us if you have more questions.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good evening,
Bye.
afternoon.
Cool.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.